Hello, and welcome to another wonderful episode of Submitted for Your Approval, the weekly card review show for Collective, the community-created card game where you make the cards. I'm your host and council member for Collective, Stranger Side. Joining us today is my faithful co-host, Grief.
Howdy, folks. Also council member, by the way.
Also council member. And the admin of Walnut. And, I don't know, a bunch of other things. Joining me also is my particularly... obtusely angled co-host Empty Folder. I see we're now getting to see just a couple more degrees into that dorm, and if it just keeps drifting, eventually we'll have a full panoramic. So let's jump straight into it, starting with the accepted submissions. These are cards that got in last week. Starting with Isla, the Seeker of Futures, is a 3-drop neutral 2/2 Thrym Scout from Tholma. With summon, scout a card to draw from your deck. If it costs less than this, your opponent loses HP equal to its cost. The champion condition is your deck has no duplicates. What's champion? It is a mix of the commander stuff from Commander and the companion stuff from Companion. So if you're familiar with Magic the Gathering, you're going to get the idea here. It can't stack, so you can only have one champion. If you fulfill the criteria, this gains innate, immortal, and when played, costs +2 mana permanently. So, neat stuff with this. This lets you, if you're playing in a Highlander deck, this can give you a chance to pull specific cards out, and possibly deal a little bit of damage to your opponent in the process. There's also Tholma, which we haven't seen for a while. Overall, I think this is a little interesting. This champion... We're going to have to see how it plays out in the long run. I know these effects have been notoriously problematic in Magic to the point where one of them actually had to have its rules text change, which is a huge deal for a game that's so big like Magic. So, Grief, I'll let you start talking about what do you think about this card?
This is a fun and quirky way to actually build decks for moving forward, and I would like to see more champions moving forward, considering that this keyword or design space opens up the floodgate for Commander in Collective, which people always asked for, and this is basically the closest thing to traditional Brawl, Commander, whatever, that you know of in most casual group environments. In competitive settings, it depends. There are a few games like Force of Will where Highlander.deck are very strong in competitive decks because the payoffs are there and strong enough to actually support the archetype. On the other hand, this is just like one of those rulers that work like that, like Ayu, who allows you to find or tutor cards. In Legacy, though, it depends. Maybe it's for specific aggro decks, for an extra little bit of burn, or for combo decks like stuff like Honeypot, where you're playing a Highlander deck, but the rest of your deck is either consistency or maybe has like 3 to 4 copies of cards in your deck that get you to Honeypot, whereas the rest is just filling up space to get into that combo. Maybe there's other combo decks that I'm not thinking of right now, but that's basically it. The best thing about it is probably using this in any kind of addition to your Hivemind Queen.
Yeah. So yeah, I think this could be interesting. Obviously, there's so many different decks you could build with that are Highlander. It's hard to kind of establish what the exact use case is going to be until we see it. But I do like the space that Champion opens up, and that's why I wanted to talk about it today. Empty, what do you think of this?
Yeah, it's definitely a very open-ended design. Being neutral and its effect being to just scout, which is good in pretty much everything. There's a deck for every hero that could use this card. One thing is, like, future designers really have to be careful with Champion. It's a very scary keyword. When I saw like Champion first, I think GoChris came up with it, and it was like making grounds and everyone was designing things for it. I saw quite a few cards that would be absolute nightmares if they got into the game. Like, this one is fine. But yeah, definitely approach this keyword with a lot of caution.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I really want to see more of these, but I know we do need to be very, very careful because it's notoriously problematic. Effects that work like this. The Seeker Light Haunt is a 2-drop mind 1/1 Databorn Spectre from Mortstall, Realm of the Dead Things. With flying, agile, and entomb, force play a 1 or less cost action from your graveyard. So these guys are going full out action recursion, guys, and I gotta say I'm a little excited. So stuff you can do with this, obviously it comes down early and can provide some fuel for like Ash Gertie because it also has some evasion. And then on the way out, you can ping them with a little vicious stare or something to get a little bit of extra chip damage should they remove your dude. This is a nuisance. I actually really, really like this guy. Grief, what do you think of it?
First of all, nice to see a new tribe, Databorn. I like it. Let's see how that turns out for Mortstall. Force play 1-cost action is kind of an interesting cost range because most of the 1-cost actions we have in the game are usually utility or some form of pseudo ping, burn, silence, whatever. Maybe there's a niche where you want to recast specific actions in that case, but for the most part, it will probably only fall into the, oh yeah, here, this is a cantrip on a stick, it is a ping effect on a stick, whatever.
Yeah, Empty, what do you think of this?
Yeah, I think it might slot into Ash Gertie. Maybe not current Ash Gertie, since the deck list is very competitive with its card slots right now. But post-rotation, maybe. Although then we'll actually have to see what our 1-cost action suite looks like in mine. Because right now it's been the Splish and Stare combo for basically since those cards got into the game. So, yeah, whatever that new suite is will determine how good this card is.
The other thing you could possibly, if you're running like a 1 attack type thing, do like Ring the Bell.
Yeah.
That
Ring the Bell looks very strong on this.
Yeah, so you could use that to get a little bit of value. Of course, that value, is going to come in 2 turns, but they're nice, cheap little units. And well, the turn after you play, you'll get them down. Turn after that, they'll be ready to go. So, yeah, I think that could be really good. Just for like maybe a 1 attack matters thing. Okie dokie then. Moving on with the Palm of Flames is a 3-drop strength action from Lux. With giving unit +2/+2 and choose up to 1 strength action in your graveyard that costs 2 or less to force play and banish. So this is really, really good, obviously, in like the target matters. You get a little bit of buff and you get a second extra effect off of it. Kind of reminds me in a weird way almost of the expertise cycle from Kaladesh, where it's like you do something and you get an extra effect off of it for free. And I really like the expertise cycle, so that's kind of neat. I think Empty, you're probably you're most familiar with the target deck. So what do you think of this card?
Yeah, I really like this card. The target deck is sort of in a weird spot right now where you run very little target matters. But one of the things that you do run, which is really fun with this, is About to Snap. And that card is really, really strong when your opponent like taps out. And you can get like some crazy burst combos. And this card just lets those combos get like even crazier because for 5 mana, you can do About to Snap and then this, and you get a total of +8/+8 and force 2 of your units to attack, giving them like pseudo agile. So I'm really looking forward to messing around with this and testing it out in that deck.
Yeah, the one thing I think the problem with this is I think this should be subject to the legendary choose bug. And that kind of upsets me because it would be nice to play onto that. Hopefully we do end up getting that. That thing resolved.
Actually, that'll be very interesting. Will it actually do the choose bug?
I think it should. I don't know.
I thought that was mostly with summon retriggering. Does that work with plagued cards too?
Yeah, I think it's just something happening in the middle of something happening. So since the play is happening in the middle of the effect. But I don't know. It remains to be seen. Just if you are running that card, make sure to double check. Okay, so we decided because there's not a lot of cards on the sub right now, we're just going to do a slightly shorter episode. So we only have 9 picks instead of the normal 12 we would have with 3 panelists. Just letting you guys know. These are the active picks, which are available for you to vote on the subreddit right now. Starting with the ideal copy is a 2-drop neutral 1/1 wax shapeshifter from Lux with Ward, and when a copy of this enters play, silence it. Give it this unit's other abilities and stats. So I think it's kind of interesting that this is in Lux in particular. The stuff it really synergizes with is mutants. So Tutela, or to a lesser extent, the Carthian mutant. It synergizes with a couple other things, but they're basically what the idea is you get the ideal copy's abilities onto something else, and then you move that around. I'm sure there's plenty of other things you could do with it. And it's very flexible, very versatile. It's sitting at 0, and I hate it because I really, really like this effect. Grief, what do you think of this?
This has basically no use except for one, and that's Fusion deck. And I can completely understand why it's doing so bad, because there is no use case for it. The hand buff decks are usually more focused on what they're buffing. Sure, you have stuff like high current, but even in mind, it's more, well, robot focused. Food decks don't really need that thing here, because they have way better units to put the feed effects on. Target doesn't really matter for it, because you first of all have to actually put multiple copies of it into play.
Mm-hmm.
Or a specific copy. Oh, basically, whenever a copy enters play, yeah, sure. The issue is even copying this card gets you relatively low value out, because you first have to dump a lot of resources in.
Yeah. I also I do kind of feel at the very least that there's not enough stuff that really synergizes with this. And I wish there was more stuff. But I'm starting to see your point that maybe without that stuff for it to explicitly synergize with, I don't maybe see the point of pushing this right now. We need more mutants, because like the other mutants, of course, what is it? The other Tutela card that makes mutants, experimental fusion or whatever, that you can't do anything reliable with it because those are scout-like effects. I'm not really sure. I don't think there's enough like critical mass for this to really work as a payoff. But you know, there's plenty of realms that really, really like doing stuff like that. So, Empty, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with Grief here. I don't think this has any use outside of Fusion Project. You just have to dump in too many resources, and you need to push the resources in 2 different directions, because you need copy effects and stat buffs, whether hand or in play. You're really better off just running Green Man.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe think about some other effects this could go with, so that this can actually go in a deck, because right now I'm starting to see their point that it isn't really there yet. But you know, I could see maybe finding some other ways to use all those mutant tokens we have. The Wiper Seed is a 0-drop neutral 0/1 plant from Intera with Can't Attack. And at the end of turn, this gains 1 HP. If this has 3 or more HP, destroy this and create the Wiper, which is a 0-drop 3/3 plant. I thought this is really, really interesting and really, really just sort of a curious effect. And so I wanted to bring this in because, first of all, this is a 0-drop, which obviously that has its own interest and impact on its own. It reminds me of Ramp, which is obviously a very cute card. And I think this could maybe be a cute little bit of DAT support. I mean, it makes sure that you hit a turn 1 unit play. This can grow into just a nice free little unit. Obviously, this can go in any sort of plant shell. I don't know if it's quite there yet, and so I kind of wanted to get some more opinions on it. Empty, what do you think of this?
Yeah, I really, really like this card. It's like these sort of timed effects lead to really fun gameplay where like you have to like determine when's the right time to really attack and go for damage early, because later on your opponent is going to have this 0 mana 3/3 that you have to deal with. Or maybe you want to expend resources in the meantime and deal with it while it's a 0-1 or 0-2. And I think already it's going to be pretty strong. It needs some sort of like mid-range deck to really take advantage of it, though, to sort of get value out of that mid-game power swing that this will provide. Really cool card.
Yeah. One other notable thing I'm just catching with this is you can actually, if you get the nut draw with this, turn 1, Wiper Seed, and improvise Shanker, and then you have on turn 2 a ready 3/3, which that could be
cool. But you could also just play like a 2/2 and then play the Shanker on that, and it's about as good.
Yeah. Grief, what do you think of this?
Well, it's a cute little mid-range card. It's kind of slow and it can be pretty much interacted with easily. Sure, it's turn 3 a 3/3. Sorry, more. Yeah, turn 3 a 3/3. And sure, you can even put HP buffs on it, which is cool. But for the most part, I think if you're going with HP buff shenanigans, you will probably utilize this as a utility feed card.
Yeah.
Where food decks that have better utility cards can actually, well, benefit from having a zero cost unit in a deck to just increase the quantity of these, besides just having ring the balance, etc. In Legacy, I can see maybe space for it. Outside of that, depends on how many food cards we get that actually go for utility instead of power buffs and keyword spam.
Yeah, it's kind of, I think the sort of the destroy and create the token might be kind of sad, because what you said is this would be really, really neat in food, but it does have the sort of non-bow where it destroys itself to create the token, and so it reverts any buff you would have gotten.
The thing is, that's why I'm specifically mentioning utility food, because this card cannot attack.
Yeah, you have to use utility food. You can't use like regular food buff. So I don't know. I think that's a little sad that could have been a good combo, but now it's a non-bow.
Yeah, I'd love to see utility food deck. I'd be so interested.
Yeah, it would be. And the Scampering Shadows is a 7-drop neutral 3/2 rodent shadow from Penumbra. With summon, create a copy of this. And entrance, merge a 1-cost unit in your graveyard to this. So I think this is really, really neat. First of all, Penumbra is seeing some love. Second of all, I really, really like Zinker's job with the Paint.net art, because I use Paint.net so much I could actually readily like figure out where he got this from. So yeah, Penumbra, really cool art and really, really neat, interesting effects. People were going back and forth about how high the cost should be on this. It's kind of just, it's in a weird spot. I don't think this is ever going to be good as like Outbreak Broodlings at 8. So I think 7 is maybe good, but I want to believe that this could go lower, but people disagree with that. So don't really know what to say about that. It's really, really cute and interesting design though. Grief, what do you think of it?
I mean, 7/6 sounds about right, considering that we have an insurgence of more Mistfist and 1-cost matter designs currently in the work. So it makes sense that people are basically saying, be cautious about it. Let's just balance it a little bit higher. So in that case, yeah, sure. In the end, you're still putting down 2 3/2s that can be also flickered to re-trigger that effect, or be reanimated, etc. Because the entrance is basically the part that actually allows you to merge cards into it. The summon is only for the create another copy of it to get so you can get a benefit twice. Sure, you have agile units for that benefit as well, so you can actually have, let's say, a 4/3 with agile, 2 copies of it. Sure, that's fine. It's not Outbreak Broodlings, as you mentioned. But the strength of the card lies actually in the utility of the 1-cost units that you're merging into it instead of the innate effect in combat.
Yeah, this does play nice with sort of your Mistfist things to a certain extent, because you usually have a whole bunch of like a big variety of 1 cost in your graveyard, so you have a whole like suite of things to do it with. And if you're running some stuff from the non-native package, you can also use the non-native buffs on this. Shinbone's at 1, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, this is cute. That's a cute combo. I really like that, because then you can sort of like use this thing to reanimate your Shinbone a couple times. Of course, your Shinbone will come into play the second time, so you can use this to like stream units out of your graveyard. And
that's actually really cool, because you get the entrance again next
really
time.
Cool combos with this. MP, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a fine card. I know a lot of people were talking about using it with that. I think it's like Call the Graveworm or something. Puts the 1-mana 6/4 overrun in your graveyard. So with those, like, this can be very strong, which is a fun little combo. I do kind of want to see a Call the Graveworm deck in Standard. So having like a bunch of these 1-cost benefit effects could be cool for that, and could be cool for the Mist archetype that I know Spikebird is working on.
Yeah, so I really like sort of the synergies this has across some existing stuff, and would love to see what people are capable of doing with it. So let's upvote that thing and get brewing. The Nomadic Painter is a 2-drop spirit 1/3 Nightling from Swiatlo with when you draw a card, shuffle a copy into the deck. Active, pay 1, draw an action. Active, pay 1, draw a unit. This is cute. This reminds me of one of my favorite cards in Magic. It's kind of lesser known, Abundance, where you basically get to call what your draws are. But this also has some stuff that's good in terms of just getting multiple copies of cards you really like. And also possibly using this for like non-native. This is really, really interesting. It's sad that it's at a rare, so I don't know how well it's going to do sitting at 6, but I mean, here's hoping. Empty, what do you think of this?
Yeah, I like this design. I think like the really big benefit I see of this is as an action tutor. You can try and use it as a unit tutor, although presumably you're going to be running at least 3 copies of this. Well, not at least 3. You're going to be running 3. In which case, there's a good chance you're just going to hit more copies of this. And it's like, well, how much mana do you want to invest into trying to draw the thing you're tutoring for? But as an action tutor, it could be quite good. And then, of course, there's like that first effect, which might come in against Mill, and that's basically all it's doing.
I think if you get really creative with it, you might be able to do something else, but it remains to be seen.
Well, maybe in Legacy.
Yeah. Or, I mean, I'm imagining possibly some stuff with like some maybe like reshuffling effects, just using it to get some more mass and non-native. Grief, what do you think?
Interesting. The thing is, you are actually half correct with at least 3 copies, because the moment you draw a copy of this card, by its effect, it shuffles a new copy of itself into the deck.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
So you have to always
consider, oh man,
you have to always consider what is this card used for. It is, first of all, consistency tool, basically turning any card of any kind of card type for you or for yourself into extra draw for just 1 mana, which is pretty much fine. Sure, you're giving up space on the board and have a non-interactive unit in that case that cannot participate in combat. But on the other hand, the body is solid. It always cantrips you once per turn. And the best thing about it, even outside of just its active ability, you will always shuffle copies of cards that you've drawn into your deck, meaning that if you actually go with mass shuffling effects from hand to deck and deck to hand in this case, every card that you've drawn that turn will also be shuffled into your deck as well. So there will be probably some quirky little combos that you can do with deck size or having multiple copies of cards in your deck. For the specific purposes of drawing cards, yeah, sure, as MT already mentioned, it's probably better to find specific actions and build your or sculpt your deck around having silver bullets in your deck that you can then just tutor out. Regardless of what copy you're hitting, you will still have another copy in your deck. or have specific combo pieces that you're running three copies of, or in the context of Legacy, only have 2 or 1 copy of it in your deck to begin with, due to how the ban list, restricted list is set up. So this artificially creates more cards for you in that deck.
Oh, I know what I'm going to do with this. I'm going to run this with the only actions in my deck being Ancestral Power and Mass of Many, and use this to just make a whole bunch of mass units and never, ever, ever run out of copies of Mass of Many, and the rest of my deck's just going to be units.
The thing is, you can also then put in, like, I think, Glory of the Recruits, which is also an action as a 1 or 2 of in your deck, which tutors 1 attack units.
Yeah.
Which this is.
I was just saying that for those of you who didn't get the joke, because Puapka, who designed this card, really, really hates those 2 particular cards, and I'm thinking it's funny that you could really, really use an effect that works exactly like this in that deck. So yeah, it's sitting at 6, but it is a rare, so it's in a rough spot. I really, really hope this does good, because I really, really like this little Nightling. Life's Kindling is a 1-drop spirit action from Mentera. With gain 3 HP, scout a plant. It becomes your affinity and gains ambush. This is sort of an interesting little Mod Podge effect. Obviously, a lot of plants are already in Spirit, but of course, you could be splashing this card, so maybe you're interested in that because it does get you a little bit of HP gain. Notable synergies with existing Scout stuff. It's kind of really hard to place where exactly this goes. Grief, what do you think of this?
I love the art. I love the concept of the card. I hate that it scouts plants. And I'm basically saying that from the context of how Scout works in the different formats.
I see. So what is your real concern with it being Scout plants?
In Standard, depending on how few plants are in Standard, this can be a very good tutor for that specific tribe, which is kind of not here or there, but in the end, let's say rotation hits rather soonish, around December, January usually. So in that case, yeah, card pool is reduced. How many plants do we still have in Standard? Because plants are one of the few tribes that only actually got the resurgence around the time where Van Basil became popular, and designs to actually interact with or bounce off of that specific mechanic with Van Basil and 3 HP, which is pretty cool for that. In Legacy, on the other hand, you can get anything that is a plant. This basically fucks over any kind of cube environment, legacy environment, etc. that has to be played in a friendly / a card creator mode environment or single player.
Yeah, it would be good if we got card pools in creator, because that pool's really, really big. MT, what do you think of this?
Yeah, so looking through like some of the plants we have in Standard, it's actually not that hard to whiff this in Standard too. Green Man and all its supporting cards are plants. And then there's a few oddball cards and other affinities. Like there's the one that makes units attack. And then there's like that Chariot that synergizes with Candy. And assuming you're running this in like a game 3 deck, which is probably like where this card is meant to have a home, those are cards you really don't want to hit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really like a hyper efficient aggro, like shutdown card, since 3 HP and it gets the plant ambush so it can block immediately. The thing is, plants already do a really good job of that. So I think it's just like making them even more like sort of hardline anti-aggro, which I'm not really a fan of.
Yeah, you love anti-aggro when it's on spiders. Oh. I'm just messing with you, man. Okay, let's move on.
That's why
I just need to move away from just being anti-aggro. That's their whole problem,
yeah.
Stranger.
so they aren't so fucking anti-aggro without killing the card.
The Flesh Shaper is a 2-drop strength 2/1 Vampire Arcanist from Duskmere. With summon and starter turn, this deals 1 damage to you and creates a Flesh Rider. For those of you who don't remember how Flesh Rider reads, it always attacks. If this deals damage to your opponent, it dies, and it's a 3/1. So yeah, this is really cute. It gets you a consistent stream of 3/1 things running at your opponent. This could give a potential more of like a mid-rangey Heldim, something to go do when, this makes sure he gets a consistent proc so that maybe he can fiddle around with some other ideas. I don't really know. And of course, Baldwin, vampires. There's probably a lot of interesting ways to do this, but the person I would want to go to get advice on how to run this optimally is Grief. So what do you think of this card?
I am kind of confused why we got Mini Cortez.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this dude looks like a count or wannabe count, so that's the reason why he creates an extra body that is a vampire that also attacks. But jokes aside, we're looking at a 2-mana 2/1. Yeah, sure, that's a little bit iffy in terms of stats that puts into play an already attacking 1 mana 3.
Oh, hold on, you're cutting out.
It's better now?
Yes.
That when it deals damage to the opponent directly, it kills itself. By the way, it is also a bolt on a stick to any unit that's trying to block it. Additionally, you're dealing with a bolt on a stick every start of turn.
Yeah, so, but then my Belfry comes down on 4 and it's a 5/3.
You see the issue here.
Yeah.
Sure, you can easily get rid of Flesh Shaper because it dies to anything that looks at it, weirdly. On the other hand, though, this is escalating aggro on a stick. I like it and I hate it for it. And let's be honest, the only reason why you really don't want to see this on the board is because of the 1 damage attacks that you happily pay in a pain deck. Yeah, I love pain decks from a concept perspective, but this just escalates the issue that people already have with that deck.
Let me see what it's sitting at. It's sitting at 6. So let me ship a proposal. If this doesn't get in, I would say flip the stat so it doesn't die to Vicious Stare anymore. Maybe leave it to where it can die from other stuff. And then perhaps increase this damage number a little bit. That, I think, would be a little bit better, both in terms of, I think that balances it out a little bit more. The still is obviously very flimsy, and obviously it's very powerful in the decks that would run it, namely Pain. But
I mean, in Pain, when you're saying with a flip the stats for a 2 mana 1/2, you can even make it maybe a 2 mana 1/3 in that case. If you push the attacks to 3 HP or 3 damage, then you actually have attacks for a unit that you always have to spend resources into to actually keep in check, or outright remove. So that makes sense.
Yeah, but then you're rebuilding your Salamander at that point.
This is nearly
it deals 3 to you. Well, it doesn't deal 3 to your opponent. I'm out of place. So yeah, a 1/3 with attacks of 3, I think, is probably a lot more interesting, especially you're in Vampires. You can just give it Life Bond. But there's a lot of cool ideas here. I feel like this desk sort of need a tweak, though, for this to be really interesting. Empty, what do you think?
I agree. So one thing I do really like is that finally someone's trying to give Heldim a way to make up for losing their 1-drop. Because that is just like a constant problem that just feels so awful. Please, just give Heldim some 2-drop agile units at the end. I know Salamander was broken and whatever, but come on, we gotta have a 2-drop agile.
No. Salamander's fine. Actually, the funniest thing is Salamander was fine if it wasn't tutored for 1 mana by via promotion. That was the problem.
Yeah.
So you like it, and you kind of agree with our.
Okay, so the issue is it's a very feast or famine card. If you're not playing against Action Spam, this is really great. And I guess Ashbury too, since they run all those ping units. But if you are, this is just going to get like instantly removed, and you're going to be really sad. So yeah, I agree with Stranger. Just flip the stats around, add more damage or something to make this less swingy. But I like the idea.
Yeah. Okie doke. The Adept of the Healing Stream is a 3-drop neutral 1/5 human arcanist from nowhere in particular. With the most damage friendly unit has Regenerate. Oh, it's from Go Go Doggo Go. First of all, like, I feel weird for some odd reason that this doesn't have a seal in it, but of course that would mean that the tribe line would now bleed through the sides of the box like the name does.
Yes.
And unlike everybody else who plays the game, I have no objections to the bleed. In fact, I enjoy it. So I'm fine with that, but I know that's going to be a complaint we hear. This is cute, but
Wait
a little slow.
I'm just off ordering the hit squad on you.
Remember, I never got Monster of Makeout Point into here. I missed that one. Empty, what do you think of this?
Yeah, so the effect is really interesting and really cool. I like the idea of having this effect that like shifts around to your units depending on which one is most damage. That's really cool. But then there's that name there that like makes me wince every time I look at the card. Just please change the name around and I will be all for this.
Well, it's easy enough to fix because you could just call it Healing Stream Adept.
Yep.
So yeah, it's a 1/5 neutral, which means that this could have a decent place, I think, in the One Attack Matters deck. This could also just be a little supporting unit to like a go tall strategy. If you have something like, if you have one of those recurring duelists that's just repeatedly beating up some units, this can be its little, the little fixer upper for that.
I think Dot is a pretty natural home for this.
Yeah, Dot's a pretty natural home for this. I could also see using this in Ashgurdy and the One Attack Matters. I could also see using this in a Held 'em Go Tall. And if I look at a card and I could say, I could think of 3 heroes across 3 different affinities that would love this for totally different reasons, that makes it a good card in my book. Grief, what do you think?
Well, all the time. I think it's probably also fine for, funny enough, what they're called again? The Sviatlo Green Tribe. Daylings.
Daylings. A lot of them already have Regenerate though.
Yeah. The thing is, you have to think about a 2-drop dude, or was it a 2-drop dude that gives Regenerate to everything that's on its left and its right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Turn 1, something else. Turn 2, that dude. Turn 3, that thing.
I think it's 3 mana though.
Not 3 mana. Well, still fits basically into the same slot then. It's kind of funny because at that point you can easily protect your entire board depending on situation. It's probably not good, but it's at least fun to think about. Overall, I think it's a fine card. Don't really have too much thought on it. Just please cut down on the name. That's the only aesthetic. That's the only part about aesthetics in Collective that I care about. Please don't bleed text boxes. Tribe, name, effect. Please.
You know, maybe there's more than one Healing Streams and you should add an S. No. Anybody have anything else? MP, did I give you a turn? Do you have more to say about this? No, I let you speak first, right? Okay.
Yeah.
The Archangel Scribe is a 1-drop strength 0/2 angel artisan object with, if an ally unit attacks alone, give it +1 attack. And if it's an angel, give it life bomb this turn. So somebody heard the urgent cry of Sevis in last episode and decided to give us some more angels. First off, the art, I think this is really, really cute and sort of like a weird, like half abstract way where it's like, I love the art. It's very beautiful. And the effect is really interesting. Very, very clearly purpose for Helbin, but also usable outside of that. Especially if we maybe get more angels down the line. Maybe this can be like a secondary in Baldwin. Or, maybe you could do this in Baldwin Artisans. Is that doable? I know there's this. Oh, guys, there might be an Artisan deck brewing.
Yeah, that needs synergy.
Maybe. Who knows? Who knows? Well, look out for it. Grief, what do you think of this card?
This is Exalted. We have one of two cards that do similar things when cards attack alone, like Cassiel's Guard, which, with its namesake, is direct Helbin support. We rarely get these kind of effects, sadly, because I like Exalted decks in Magic. They are a little bit more unique in terms of how they approach aggro as a playstyle, and I like seeing more of this because, yeah, it also can attack for one attack. It also doesn't say until end of turn, so this can actually stack the moment it attacks the third and turn 3, etc. So that's always fine. Overall, cute card.
Looking at it again, I missed something. So I actually do have one gripe with this card, and that is clearly depicted with wings and lacks flying.
I wanted to say I am very glad that this doesn't have flying. If it would have flying, it probably needed 1 HP, and that makes it ultimate bad.
Yeah. I don't like things that have wings in the art that don't have
I've played a lot of games where flying things or things with wings didn't have a flying keyword. And I'm still of the opinion Collective only has flying as an evasion keyword because the original studio didn't come up with an actual intelligent combat system.
MT, what do you think of this?
I really like this card. I'm looking forward to see more cards in like Angel Tribal with Heldim sort of support. I'm really interested to see how they would make like an Exalted deck work with all these different sort of ally attacks alone effects. I'm all for it.
Yeah. So this is really, really cool. My gripe is fairly minor, but I think people already understand that. And we're just going to move on. Because, boy, do we have an exciting thing to end the episode on. The Heretic of the Citadel is a 4-drop strength, 3/4 wax horror golem from Lux with Ward. And when you play the first card each turn that targets a wax ally, play the top card of your deck that costs less than the played card. Entomb, create Coalesce Flames in hand. Coalesce Flames gives a unit Ward, +3/+4, and Entomb, create Heretic of the Citadel in your hand. So this is supposed to be I think that the Heretic is itself that arm thingy. And that's really interesting lore-wise. Something interesting is going on with this story bit. I've heard about it a little bit in lore. And there's a lot to unpack here, but I think this gives Target something that Target Wax some stuff they'll really, really like. So, Empty, what do you think of this card?
It has Cascade. That's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
I love Cascade. Yeah, I really like this card. This is exactly the type of effect that this targeting deck needed. Is like a really substantial payoff with Ward too. So it's hard for your opponent to get rid of it. And even if they do, you get extra value. It's just a really great card for the package. It has that added wax synergy. But even if you're not running any wax units, you can just play cards on this, and that's perfectly fine too. So it's very open-ended. I love this card. I think it's a great design.
Yeah, so I like how it's Cascade, but it does make sure that, first of all, if you're playing an action on it, clearly you have a target. So if you're playing one of your target cards, you'll definitely have a target. Unless, of course, this runs into the choose bug window again, or choose window bug. And then this could also get you some of your cheaper, like your enablers out as well. I think this really is sort of the thing that ties it together and actually makes me want to crack open and try Wax, because I've been playing with Bellist for quite a while. Apparently that's a flavor fail according to the flavor text, but I've been playing with Bellist and my Greenman for a while, and so I'd be interested in maybe expanding out this wax stuff, because Spike, it's weird. He runs kind of tangent to a lot of the things that I like to do in terms of like copying and certain ability moving type stuff. So it would be really, really interesting to sort of see like Spike's take on like my interest or the kind of decks that I like to build. So I think this stuff is really, really fun for stuff like single player shenanigans. Grief, what do you think of this?
I personally have to say, just like Empty, I like cascade effects. They are kind of weird. They basically do a ton of shenanigans depending on the deck. And if you're basically running a combo deck, you're just playing a one copy of a specific card. That you want to hit off your cascade effects. The thing is, this is not really cascade. It's top of the deck matters.
Wait, play the top card of your deck that costs less than the played card. When it, I think.
Oh yeah, okay. Then, guys.
Yeah.
Then I misunderstood the fact. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, in that case, yeah, you basically run a specific card, a specific combo where say, okay, I'm playing action spam, with weird targeting effects where only my targets are ward backs or some bullshit like that, or the vigilant backs that we now got, and yeah, then at the end of the chain, you have like stuff like Sploosh that's now 0 cost.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and it's interesting because it's a cascade that leverages the fact it's a digital TCG. Yeah. So normal cascade will mess with the top of your deck. This won't. So it still works with Scour. So I would actually be interested in seeing more effects that use this version of like a cascade-like effect. So yeah, after this, I am still a little bit puzzled about how to run this, but I'm sure I can get a list from someone down on the Discord, and I'm sure this will be fun. I really hope this does well. What's it sitting at? It's sitting at 8. Guys, there's not a whole lot going on, and this is a legendary. So just upvote this. It's really that easy. Just click that button and just keep upvoting this card. I do believe that was our last pick for the week. Like I said, we decided to do a shorter episode this week. We'll come back with something longer. Probably come back with a guest next week. I'm going to hope to share. So yeah, this is a fun week. We saw a lot of cool cards. Like I said, there wasn't as many, and so but I think we got a pretty decent selection. Thank you always, Grief, for joining me. And I'd like to ask, is that a real flower?
Yeah, those are real orchards.
I see. Take good care of that flower. It's very pretty. And also Empty Folder. So nice to see.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Is that thing in the corner that we're seeing now, is that your bed or what is that?
That's part of a wall. I have like a slanted wall in the back.
No, like beneath the slanted wall.
Yeah.
Can we get a couple more degrees next time and just keep going?
Sure.
Next time, Empty will have prepared a Google Street View 360 version of his room.
Okay, so like, comment, and subscribe. Remind me why I keep doing this. Keep on playing collective and keep on voting on cards. Bye.